Hi guys, welcome back. This is Crystal with Emerson Aurora Design, and today I'm going to show you how I make this Halloween tattoo tumbler. This is a fun tumbler to do for Halloween and for Christmas. So this is a 32-ounce slim tumbler from Stainless Steel Depot, and I'm going to apply my glitter using the epoxy method. I'm just putting a thin layer on my tumbler and allowing that to spin for a few minutes for that epoxy to spread out. You don't need as much epoxy as I actually put on this tumbler. Sometimes I put a little bit more on than I need, and then I just go ahead and wipe it off after. It's easier for me to spread the epoxy. I'm going to use my torch to pop the bubbles. It isn't really to pop the bubbles at this point because it doesn't really matter. The glitter will cover, but it also allows that epoxy to warm up and move a little bit so that the ridges don't show. This is just a holographic fine glitter, silver holographic. I believe it's from Michaels. I believe it's called Bling. Um, it's from Michaels. So I'm just going to liberally sprinkle this all over my tumbler. I'm not doing anything fancy with this. I am just sprinkling it through the whole tumbler and allowing that glitter to cover completely. So once all my glitter is on and the tumbler looks nice and evenly covered with the glitter, I'm going to let this spin on my turner for about 6 to 8 hours. And then I'll go in with another layer of epoxy and do a good flood coat to cover my glitter. I'll let that cure for 6 to 8 hours and then sand my tumbler nicely to get it nice and smooth, and one more layer of epoxy before we go on to our next step. The glitter is so pretty. I love holographic silver glitter. So now that all my epoxy layers are nice and cured, we're on to the next step, applying the tattoo. So this is the arm sleeve tattoo that I purchased on Amazon. It's Nightmare Before Christmas. I'll leave a link in the description box below. This one is one of my most popular tumblers that really are popular this time of year. And you can use it for Halloween or Christmas, which is double bonus. I'm just measuring out my image, kind of seeing where I'm going to trim it to get the image to go from the top to the bottom. So I'm just measuring that up against my tumbler. And I want to get that full jack-o'-lantern at the bottom there. So I'm just going to use my paper cutter to trim that straight. And that way I will have both images, one to put on each side. This larger tumbler is perfect for this sleeve tattoo. It allows that whole image to go on there and it fits perfectly. So I'm going to remove the protective film here and I'm going to cut around the image just because I don't need that excess. When you put this on your tumbler, the tattoo on your tumbler, that label at the top will not transfer over, but you don't need all that bulky extra paper. So I'm just going to put a little thin bit of water on the base of my tumbler where I want to put my tattoo. And I'm telling you guys, once you guys stick this down, you can't move it. It's not like a water slide. The back of this image does have a straight kind of a level, so you can measure that up to your tumbler. And once you stick it down, just rub it with some wet paper towel and get that whole backing nice and wet. And as you do this, just kind of press down and it should help push out any bubbles that may be trapped underneath the image. Tattoo paper is a lot thinner than water slide paper. It works in a different way than water slide paper, but it has similar effects once you have that on your tumbler. There are so many tattoos that you could put on your tumblers. They are they have a million of them on Amazon and all different places. So if you've never done this before, give it a try. If you don't like the way that the tattoo turns out, you can go ahead and wipe it off with some acetone. So there's my image. It fit perfectly on there. It is a little bit overlapping at the bottom and the top. It's perfectly fine. I'm not going to address the overlap at the top right now because I don't want to tear this really thin tattoo. Once I epoxy it and it's cured, that top part will just sand off when you do your sanding. So I'm just taking a paper towel and gently patting that image dry. And there are some water bubbles trapped underneath. The nice thing about popping the bubbles with a little thin needle tool, or in this case, this is a tiny little X-Acto blade, you just literally tap it and then rub your finger over and that water will be released. So make sure that you get all those little water bubbles popped before you even attempt to do any epoxying. If you were to epoxy over this and there's trapped air bubbles, you stand the chance of having either your epoxy not cure or having a discoloration in that area. So I'm really happy with how that one turned out. So I'm going to go ahead and flip that cup over and do the same thing on the other side. I love this image of a Oogie Boogie, and I really wanted that bottom swirl to be on the tumbler too. So I'm going to measure it to fit exactly the way that I want. Again, put a little bit of water on your tumbler and line up your image. This is a tapered tumbler, so there will be a little bit of overlap between the two images, but no matter, I'm going to show you how to remedy that here in just a minute. Putting a tattoo on your tumbler really gives you a big bang for your buck. They're easy, people love them. It looks like you've spent way more time on it than you actually did. So like I said, give it a try if you haven't done it. So you can see there's quite a bit of overhang there on that part, but I'm just going to smooth it over the edge and I'm not going to worry about it right now. And again, I'm going to go in and dry my image and tap out any bubbles. I want this to dry completely before I go on to my next step. And the next step will be addressing the overlapping on the sides of the images where they're not quite perfect. So that's completely dry, and I'm going to go in with some black alcohol ink here just to camouflage any areas that may be overlapped. And I'm not really happy with how the top portion of the jack side is curved. I want to black that out. So you just take a little bit of the alcohol ink and apply it to a little makeup sponge, or you can do a natural sponge, whatever you like to do your dabbing with of your alcohol ink. And just fill in the areas that you want to camouflage. And since this is a Halloween tumbler and most of the image does have the faded in black to show the night sky, this blends in really well and it fixes this area. It just makes it more visually pleasing. The nice thing about putting alcohol ink on this and then going ahead and doing the epoxy over is the epoxy really does hide that area of the alcohol ink and it makes it really blend, and it looks like that's exactly the way that the image was put on your tumbler, if that makes any sense. So just use your best judgment here. There's no right or wrong. You want to just go until your image looks good and the way that you want it. Down here, I'm going to fix this little area here. I'm going to add black to it to hide that overlap. And I'm going to go in the same direction that the little swirl is going, and it perfectly camouflages. This tumbler is a really quick and easy tumbler to make ahead of time for craft fairs, to use as ready-to-sell tumblers. It's really popular. A lot of people love this movie, especially this time of year, and you can use it for Halloween and Christmas. This side I wanted to be a little bit more careful around the little tree, but I ended up kind of fading it in and it looked perfectly fine. I didn't want to cover the tree up totally, so I'm going really light here. And you can still kind of see the tree once I'm finished, but it didn't really matter much to me anyway. It really did blend in with the image, and I was happy with it. I'm also going to go ahead and add alcohol ink to the bottom, which will help camouflage the overhang of the image that went over the bottom of the tumbler. You could go in with a sharp X-Acto blade once your water slide is dried and try to trim that edge, but I was perfectly fine with just camouflaging with my black alcohol ink. I just thought it looked good and I didn't really want a full silver bottom. So once your alcohol ink completely dries, I'm going to put this back on my turner and I'm going to put a layer of epoxy over the image. Let that cure completely, do a sanding layer, and then one more layer of epoxy. Clean your rim up and it's good to go. And here he is in all of his glory. You can see why this tumbler is one of my more popular ones. It just is so adorable. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you learned something new today. And if you're new to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button to catch up on all the videos and tutorials that I have on my channel. I hope you all have a wonderful October, a beautiful Halloween, and happy crafting, everyone. Keep at it. Bye-bye.